Hi, I have another story for you from Bedtime Adventures Fluffy and His Friends. This story is about Browny. One time, Fluffy and Oscar were walking along the fence, and they were just talking about all the wonderful things that their shepherd did for them because he was so nice. And especially now, because it was Christmas, near Christmas, the shepherd did wonderful, wonderful things for them. For example, there were some big pine trees in the pasture, and he would decorate them and put lights on them. So at night, all the sheep could come and they could see the pretty lights on the tree. There were blue ones and orange ones and yellow ones and green ones and red ones. And it was just beautiful how he had decorated all the trees. And then what he did was he would make a circle of bales of hay, and not only hay, but nice, juicy, good-tasting alfalfa, and they loved that. And then the lambs could lay there at night, and they could listen to stories about the great shepherd. Well, they were talking about how good their shepherd was, and how nice he was to them, and how neat it was that they belonged to him. And as they were walking, Fluffy looked up ahead, and on the other side of the fence, he thought he saw something. And as Fluffy and Oscar got closer, Oscar said, "I think it's a lamb." And Fluffy said, "Yeah, but he sure is dirty and scruffy looking, isn't he?" And they got closer, and Oscar could hear that the lamb was actually crying. And when they got really close, Fluffy said, little lamb, can you come over here and talk to us for a little bit?" And the poor little scruffy, brown-looking lamb walked over to him, and he was still sniffling. And Oscar said, "Little lamb, what's your name?" And the lamb said, "My name is Browny." And that just looked just like him. He was all brown and matted and dirty and everything. And Fluffy said to him, "Little lamb, why are you crying?" He said, "You'd cry too if you had a shepherd like mine. He treats us so bad. He never gives us clean water. He never gives us good things to eat or anything. And he hurts us and everything." And Oscar said, "Oh, that's so bad. Our shepherd is really a great shepherd. He does all sorts of neat things for us. He takes care of us in everything." And Brownie said, "Oh, I wish I belonged to your shepherd. I don't want to belong to mine, but I don't know what I can do." And Fluffy said, "Well, when we get back, we could talk to our shepherd," he said. And Brownie said, "I want to belong to your shepherd." And right then, a big snarly dog ran up, and he barked so that Oscar and Fluffy, they were afraid, and they stepped away from the fence, and he nipped at Brownie, and he said, "Get back there." And so Brownie ran away. Well, when the boys wound up back at the at the main part of the pasture, the shepherd drove up in his truck, and they ran right up to him and said, "Shepherd, shepherd, 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 shepherd." And he got out and he laughed and he said, "What is it, boys? What do you want?" And Fluffy said, "Shepherd, we found a lamb at the back part of the fence, and he was all dirty and everything." And Oscar said, "Yeah," and he was crying and he wasn't happy at all. And Fluffy said, "And we told him about you." And he said, "I want to belong to your shepherd." And all of a sudden, the shepherd got really serious. And he looked down at them and he said, "Tell me exactly what he said to you. What were the words he used?" And Fluffy said, "He said to us, he wanted to belong to you." And the shepherd thought for a second. He said, "Well, I know who that shepherd is. I'll go over later and I'll talk to him and see what can happen." So later, the shepherd drove his truck over there, and he pulled up to where this shepherd lived, and it was all muddy and ruddy, and there was an old dilapidated house, and it just made you feel bad. And the good shepherd, walked up to the door, and he knocked on the door, and there was a voice from within, "Who is it? Get away from here!" And the shepherd kept knocking, and all of a sudden a door flew open, and there was a big mean shepherd inside. He said, "What do you want?" And the good shepherd said, "I'd like to buy one of your lambs from you." And the mean shepherd just glared at him. And he said, I'm not selling any of my lambs to you. And the good shepherd said, well, you know the rules of the great shepherd. He said that if any lamb wants to belong to another shepherd, all he has to do is say, I want to belong to that shepherd. And you have a lamb who said he wants to belong to me. And because of the rule of the great shepherd, you have to give me that lamb now. And the mean shepherd, his face went all kind of ugly and nasty and everything. And he said, who is the lamb who said he wanted to belong to you? And the good shepherd said, Browny. 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 And the mean shepherd looked at one of his nasty shepherd dogs and he said, go get Browny. And so the dog ran and he found Browny and he said, you need to come to the mean shepherd right now. There's a shepherd there that says you want to belong to him, but you don't, do you? And he got behind Browny and he snipped at his legs and everything, and he was growling the whole time. So Browny finally came to where the two shepherds were, and he was right in between them. And the mean shepherd looked at Browny and he said, Browny, you don't want to belong to this shepherd, do you? And poor Browny, he looked up at the mean shepherd and his heart was full of fear. And he looked up at the good shepherd and the good shepherd looked so nice. He looked at the mean shepherd and he thought of all the ways the mean shepherd had hurt him and mistreated him. And he looked up at the good shepherd and he thought how kind he was and everything. He looked at the mean shepherd. He looked at the good shepherd. He looked at the mean shepherd. He said, I want to belong to the good shepherd. And he ran over by the good shepherd really quick. And the mean shepherd tried to kick him and just missed him. And then the good shepherd took his stick and he just stomped it on the floor and he said, this lamb now belongs to me. And he told Browny, he said, go to my truck. And Browny went to the truck and there were growling dogs and everything, but the good shepherd kept looking at them and he looked at the mean shepherd and the mean shepherd said, Browny, I'll get you someday. And so the good shepherd went to his truck. He put Browny in his truck and he drove away. And so a little while later, the boys were out there playing and all the lambs were playing and everything. And the shepherd drove up and he stopped his truck and he got out and he said, Fluffy, Oscar, come here once. I have something for you. And they ran over to his truck and they said, what do you have for us, shepherd? And he says, I want to show you something. And he opened the back gate of his pickup truck and there, lying on some hay in the bed of the pickup truck, was Browny. Oh, and the boys were so happy. They were jumping up and screaming. And when Browny came out, they danced around him and everything. And they said, right away, you have to come to our house. We want to introduce you to our parents. And they went over to Browny, to Fluffy and Oscar's house. And the parents were there. And they took one look at that Browny. And they thought, oh, that poor little lamb. And they said, we want you to live with us. And we want to adopt you. And you know what the first thing that they did was? They gave Browny a bath. And they scrubbed him up and tubbed him up and everything. And they poured so much water on him. And they used so much soap on him. Guess what? When he was completely washed up, guess what color Browny was? He was still brown. But he wasn't muddy anymore. And so that night, they took Browny with them. And they went over to the big pine trees that were so pretty and they were all lit up and it was night. And they sat down and they ate just delicious, juicy alfalfa. And they listened to some of the older lambs talk about the lambs who were there on the night when the great shepherd was born. And that's how Browny became a member of Oscar and Fluffy's family.